video with yours truly, Miss Leah. Today we are going to be working towards the Influencer Badge. We're going to learn about the power of discussing issues that are important to you. So let's stand up and speak out. Alright, before we get started, let's go over what you'll need for today's activity. So you'll need your mobile device, pencil, paper, or computer, and you'll need access to the internet. What do you think it means to stand up and speak out? Okay, I like those ideas, you guys. If you're working with a partner, I want you to discuss it with your partner, and I want you to write it down in your leadership. Or if you're working by yourself, just take a few minutes to think about what that means and write it in that term. So let's take a look at the quote from Mary Beth on our Stand Up and Speak Out handbook. She was a 13-year-old student who fought for free speech for all students. So I want you to read that quote and think about what that means to you, and think about something that you feel like you can stand up and speak out about. Now that you've thought about it, write down 3 things in your leadership journal that you feel like you should stand up and speak out about. So I'm going to share with you guys the 3 things that I wrote down in my leadership journal that I want to take a stand on. So the first one being better wages for teachers. I feel like that's one we can all get together and agree on. The second one is more accommodating hours for our students. I feel like children need more sleep for their mental health, for growth, for brain development. And I feel like, with that being said, that they should go into school a little bit later and even get out a little bit earlier. The third thing I'm going to make a stand on, and I know everybody's going to be with me on this one, is we need to fix the busted ice cream machines at McDonald's. Leadership often involves discussing issues that are important and may require you to take a stance. As a leader, you have to be prepared to stand up for what is right. So let's write down in our leadership journal and go over a few questions. First one being, name a few times when you've spoken out on a topic that was important to you. Why is it important to have the courage to speak out? And how do you find courage? And last one, what helps you to speak out? So let's take a few moments to watch the video, The Danger of Silence. While you're watching, pay attention to see what the speaker is passionate about and what makes his speech so powerful.
Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., in a 1968 speech where he reflects upon the civil rights movement, states, "In the end, we will remember not the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends." As a teacher, I've internalized this message. Every day, all around us, we see the consequences of silence manifest themselves in the form of discrimination, violence, genocide, and war. In the classroom, I challenge my students to explore the silences in their own lives through poetry. We work together to fill those spaces, to recognize them, to name them, to understand that they don't have to be sources of shame. In an effort to create a culture within my classroom where students feel safe sharing the intimacies of their own silences, I have 4 core principles posted on the board that sits in the front of my class, which every student signs at the beginning of the year. Read critically, write consciously, speak clearly, tell your truth. I find myself thinking a lot about that last point, tell your truth. And I realized that if I was going to ask my students to speak up, I was going to have to tell my truth and be honest with them about the times where I failed to do so. So I'd tell them that growing up, as a kid in a Catholic family in New Orleans, during Lent, I was always taught that the most meaningful thing one could do was to give something up. Sacrifice something you typically indulge in to prove to God you understand His sanctity. I've given up soda, McDonald's, French fries, French kisses, and everything in between. But one year, I gave up speaking. Figured the most valuable thing I could sacrifice was my own voice, but it was like I hadn't realized that I had given that up a long time ago. I had spent so much of my life telling people the things they wanted to hear instead of the things they needed to. Told myself I wasn't meant to be anyone's conscience because I still had to figure out being my own, so sometimes I just wouldn't say anything, appeasing ignorance with my silence, unaware that validation doesn't need words to endorse its existence. When Christian was beat up for being gay, I put my hands in my pocket and walked with my head down as if I didn't even notice. Couldn't use my locker for weeks because the bolt on the lock reminded me of the one I had put on my lips when the homeless man on the corner looked at me with eyes up, merely searching for an affirmation that he was worth seeing. I was more concerned with touching the screen of my Apple than actually feeding him one. When the woman at the fundraising gala said, "I'm so proud of you. It must be so hard teaching those poor, unintelligent kids," I bit my lip because apparently we needed her money more than my students needed their dignity. We spend so much time listening to the things people are saying that we rarely pay attention to the things they don't. Silence is the residue of fear. It is feeling your flaws gut-wrench guillotine your tongue. It is the air retreating from your chest because it doesn't feel safe in your lungs. Silence is Rwandan genocide. Silence is Katrina. It is what you hear when there aren't enough body bags left. It is the sound after the noose is already tied. It is charring. It is chains. It is privilege. It is pain. There is no time to pick your battles when your battles have already picked you. I will not let silence wrap itself around my indecision. I will tell Christian that he is a lion, a sanctuary of bravery and brilliance. I will ask that homeless man what his name is and how his day was, because sometimes all people want to be is human. I will tell that woman that my students can talk about transcendentalism like their last name was Thoreau, and just because you watch one episode of The Wire doesn't mean you know anything about my kids. So this year, instead of giving something up, I will live every day as if there were a microphone tucked under my tongue, a stage on the underside of my inhibition. Because who has to have a soapbox when all you've ever needed is your voice? Thank you.
That was a great video. Did you guys pay attention to what Clint was passionate about? I hope you did. Okay, you guys, so let's circle back and go to our leadership journal and go over those questions. And I'm gonna go over with you what I wrote down in my leadership journal. So one of the questions being, name a time that you spoke out on a topic that was important to you. So for me, one of the things that came to mind was when my cousin, when we were younger, was being bullied in school, and I took a stance and reported it, talked to the teacher, and brought everyone together, and it was resolved. Another question we had, another topic question is, why is it important to find the courage to speak out? For me, I feel like it's always important to stand up for what is right and to find the courage to do it, because if you don't, who else will? And that's the best way to make a change in the situation. Another one was, how do you find the courage? And I find it when there's just no other option. When there's no other way, you just have to find the courage and go for it. Stand up. And lastly, what helps you to speak out? My voice, plain and simple. My voice helps me to stand up and speak out, and having the courage to do it. All right, so let's experience it. So now you're gonna have a chance to create your own presentation that will teach others about an issue that is important to you today. And you can do this with a partner, or you can do it by yourself. And the best way to do it is to go back to the beginning when we wrote down 3 topics that we felt were important to take a stance on. So I would choose one of those. And here are a few examples of how you could do it. So you could write a compelling summary, or a pitch, or you could write a poem or a song with lyrics that were related to the topic that was important to you. Or if you really wanted to get creative and do this with a partner, you could create a dramatic skit that is related to the topic. So those are some examples of how to create what you're going to create in just a moment. All right, so for my presentation, I'm gonna choose the topic related to children getting or having better school hours, going into school a little bit later so they can get adequate sleep, and also getting out a little bit earlier so they have a pretty good period of time to just decompress, because children need to decompress too. So I'm gonna do mine by way of poem, so let's get to it. And now I'll share with you what I'm taking a stand on: a later school start time for our students. Let me sleep. I'm tired, I tell you, I'm up too early. I'm tired, I tell you, my words are true. It's so hard to focus, my brain needs rest. We've raced to school, come home, race to bed, on to the next. This can't be good. A later school time? I think we should. Give our minds a chance to rest. Give our minds a chance to reset. I'm tired, I tell you. It's true, it's true. A later school time is best for me and for you. How great would it be? What a treat. I'm tired, I tell you. Now let me sleep. I'm here for it. Let the children sleep. All right, great job, you guys. Today's activity was a lot of fun. I hope you had a lot of fun. I hope it gave you an opportunity to really think about important topics in your life and what's going on around you and how you can make a change, how we're always going to stand up and speak out. All right, you guys, make sure that you upload and share what your presentation was, whether it was a skit or a poem. And that way you can earn that influencer badge. All right, you guys, until the next activity, I'm out of here. But just remember, great futures start here.